the DORK Podcast with Rich Keefe. It's the DORK Podcast with Davey. It's the DORK Podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag DORK Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always by Davey Eyeballs. He is Ryder Von Dyder. All hail the king of ginger ale. It's Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
I'm all right. Some sad news. I know we're going to get to it this week, but kind of
brutal.
a tough weekend, huh?
By my count, 4 pick of the pods and big ones too, like brutal ones.
Not ones that you're like, oh yeah, I thought he was still alive. But no,
there's some really, really bad ones. And I guess, all right, I guess we might as well just get right into that then, you know?
This week in DORK.
So since we've been doing the podcast, I think we did a whole Chadwick Boseman episode after he passed. I know we talked a lot of like when Kobe Bryant died, and there were a few others, and all of a sudden over the last couple of years, it started to be more celebrity deaths where I was like, kind of like, you know, like knock the wind out of you. And normally, like, hey, how you deal with somebody's death who you don't know, like that's really up to you. I don't really care how it goes. But I know for me personally, I was always like, well, if they're not a friend or a family member, then like it's sad, but then I'll go on with my day.
Right.
But all of a sudden, Davey, I feel like there's been a bunch where you're like, whew. And this week, hearing about Bray Wyatt, the wrestler, Wyndham Rotunda is his real name, but Bray Wyatt is how most people know him from the WWE. 36 years old. He was currently out of wrestling, but I think he was going to get back into it, or like he at least wasn't like on screen and he was going to get back into it. To me, the most entertaining guy of the last 10 years. He was a good wrestler, like in ring, one of the best talkers. All his stuff was super cinematic and like horror movie vibes. He was incredible. Like he was must watch TV for a while, even if you weren't a wrestling fan, or even like me, I wasn't watching every week, but I'd be like, I'd go to YouTube and be like, all right, was Bray Wyatt on this week? What's he doing? Whether it was Wyatt family, whether it was the Fiend stuff, whether it was the Firefly Funhouse, and fuck, man, 36 years old. Brutal. I
think that's what's getting to me too, is it's starting to be people younger than me.
Yep.
Usually, I mean, like you said, celebrity deaths. I mean, you know, I know we're going to get to this one, but you like look at like Bob Barker. Like Bob Barker was 99 years old. He had a good run.
Yeah, great run. Yeah.
I like that's the fucking perfect tweet too. When someone was like, he went as close to 100 without going over. Like that was the fucking perfect tweet.
Yeah.
But then like Chadwick Boseman, and I remember the first one I was like really affected by, and like I couldn't explain why, was Prince.
Oh, sure.
Like I couldn't explain why. I just like that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know, and was Bray Wyatt, was he sick?
So what I read was earlier this year he got COVID and it like brought up some like heart issues that he had. Yeah. But then he was getting over that and he was actually like working towards like a return. And then he got a heart attack. So no, he wasn't like sick. So also really sad. One of the guys that was in the Wyatt family, Luke Harper, that's his wrestling name, but he passed away like a year or so ago. He was really sick, but it's like these two guys that were still had so much more to give. And then it like really fucking gets to you when you're like, he's got a wife and like little kids. And you're like, Jesus Christ. And it's also, I know a lot of people be like, oh, like, you know, wrestlers, like it's, you know, it's here we go, another wrestler. That's changed though. Like that's really, these guys don't have 350 live shows a year like they used to, right? Like they're not all on pills and fucking going crazy because they have to for that schedule. The schedule's changed. And with that said, the day before Bray Wyatt passed, Terry Funk died. The hardcore legend Terry Funk.
Hardcore legend, and a guy like, if you ever watched, was it
Beyond the Mat?
Beyond the Mat, like guy. I mean, 20 years ago when that movie came out, the guy could barely put his pants on.
He was like the king of the retirement match. He had like 20, he had like 30 retirement matches. He's like, if I lose this one, I'm done. And you're like, he just kept coming back. He had in the Attitude Era. Remember, he was Chainsaw Charlie.
He was Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack were like doing hardcore matches together, and it was just like.
Jesus.
Good God, man. Like both those guys just beating the shit out of each other. By the way, Terry Funk, greatest movie role. He actually had a bit part in Roadhouse. He was one of the bouncers.
That's right.
He wore jeans tucked into white cowboy boots.
And you weren't going to tell him a goddamn thing about it.
Nope. No, that's a hard charge. Right? If someone comes at me in tight jeans with cowboy boots over the jeans,
no,
I'm just going to step out of your way.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. You were here first. Your way. No, I'd be interested actually maybe even in doing a Bray Wyatt episode just because there was so much there. He had so much to his characters. Like he was a fascinating guy. So for those that don't watch wrestling anymore and haven't for a long time, but did IRS, remember IRS?
Yes.
That's his dad.
That's his dad. Yeah.
So IRS had 2 kids, or at least 2 wrestling kids, Bo Dallas, who's a wrestler, and Bray Wyatt.
I remember being put on to Bray Wyatt because of you. I mean, you were like, you got to check out this whole Fiend thing that he's doing.
Yep.
And I was like, this kid's the real deal.
So that mask that looked a lot like Joker from the New 52, that was designed by Tom Savini, the fucking legendary makeup and effects guy.
And he needed that mask to shower, I'm told. What if he had to take a shower?
My Slipknot mask?
Why do you need your Slipknot mask?
Just grab the deodorant I got you for Christmas. We still need to do a Detroiters episode also. So Terry Funk, Bray Wyatt, Bob Barker, and Arlene Sorkin. Arlene Sorkin, the original
Arlene Sorkin, which was incredible to me because when she originally did the voice, Harley Quinn didn't have a name.
Yeah.
Like she invented that character. Like that character was so good that they actually had to give that character a name because of Arlene Sorkin.
Pretty sick. I saw Mark Hamill tweeting about it. He actually might have said what the character's name was. It was just like
Thug, Joker
Slappy.
Thug or something. Female
Slappy
Joker
Dappy.
Thug. Yeah.
And then I saw Tara Strong tweeting about it too, and she was saying how she was doing Batgirl at the time because she's obviously really famous for Harley Quinn too, but it was Arlene Sorkin who was the originator and really the characters based off. Think about how famous Harley Quinn became.
Yeah.
Would you perhaps if you take the whole landscape of it, is Harley Quinn the 3rd most famous character in the Batman universe behind Batman and Joker?
I think now with Marge Bob, to quote Mac and Goo, doing the work of Harley Quinn, but also probably you could make an argument for the most important female character in the Batman universe. I mean, you have Catwoman, Poison Ivy.
Oh, Catwoman's a good one. Yeah.
Equally as important.
Yeah, so they both got their own movie. Catwoman or Harley Quinn has her own animated show now. She's up there. She's way up there. Yeah, it's fucked too. Normally the celebrity deaths come in 3s. This was 4. That's too many.
It's too many. It's too much.
I want
do less.
Speaking of too much, the Rebel Moon trailer came out. This is Zack Snyder's next enterprise. It's going to be on Netflix. It's a 2-part film. Part 1 comes out December 22nd. Part 2 comes out next April the 19th. Where do you come down on Rebel Moon?
Here's where I'm pissed off because people are already saying that there's a Zack Snyder director cut. It's fucking Netflix. Just put the director's cut on there. There shouldn't be a fucking director's cut.
That can't be real, is it?
That's what they're saying. That's what they say. There's a director's cut that's going to come after this. It's like, dude, just fucking release the director's cut. Cut it out.
Dude, you know what
you got away with it once.
You know what I've decided on Zack Snyder? Because there is a rabid fan base for Zack Snyder.
Sure.
But I've said this about Marcus Smart, and I'm trying to think who else. He's not properly rated by anyone but us, because if you go on the internet, Zack Snyder's either the greatest thing that's ever happened to movies or he fucking sucks. And that's not true either. I think there's pushback from the super fans, and then people are like, oh, his movies stink and everything is in slow motion. And then you're like, well, he did do Dawn of the Dead, Watchmen, 300. There are some decent movies mixed in there. I liked the Snyder cut of the Justice League movie, which I know was a whole song and dance to get it released and whatever. But I think he does have a bunch of good movies, and because it's just free on Netflix, I'm definitely gonna watch this Rebel Moon.
Sure.
It looks crazy, it looks chaotic. I'll check it out.
Do you know who he is? I'm gonna say this right now, and you can be like, right. He's Robert Rodriguez. Him and Robert Rodriguez are the same guy.
I love Robert Rodriguez.
But like when you think about it, like he's had some fucking hits and some big fucking misses.
Ooh, that'd be a good for our Versus series, which we haven't launched yet.
Right? Like, and there's some movies that like Robert Rodriguez did that nobody saw that were fucking awesome. Like Alita Battle Angel. That movie fucking rules.
I've never seen it.
It's awesome.
Is it?
Yes.
I'll check it out.
I don't care what anybody says. I will die on the Alita Battle Angel is fucking great.
I've never seen any of the Spy Kids films.
And like the first one was decent.
Okay.
And then they're rebooting that too, by the way.
I think it's coming on Netflix actually.
Yep.
Spy Kids Armageddon coming to Netflix. I would say Robert Rodriguez greater than Zack Snyder, but I like them both actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Rodriguez has had some real stinkers though.
Oh yeah, but if you just compare highs to highs.
Oh, Rodriguez, yeah.
Rodriguez, Sin City.
I think the fact that he's got Sin City in his list is like.
I actually really, really liked Planet Terror. Like knowing what it was, like when he and Tarantino did the Grindhouse, his movie was a lot better than Tarantino's, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
I mean, Death Proof was all right, but Planet Terror was fucking great. I love Planet Terror.
And I would say his episode of The Mandalorian was one of the strongest.
Mm-hmm. Real good. I liked all those Desperados and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I like that.
You know, the Machetes kind of sucked.
Yeah, I did see the Machetes. Sin City 2 was bad.
Sin City 2 was bad.
What about From Dusk Till Dawn? I love that movie.
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, nice.
I shouldn't because that movie's kind of terrible. But like, what is Two Scoops? Sock 'em Dead. Like, what are these things? You know what I mean?
I don't celebrate the man's entire catalog. I just happen to like a lot of the movies that he has done. So
yes, and he did direct 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, which we know how we feel about that.
Yeah.
They were probably the best ones. I think they were the best ones of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a new season of American Horror Story coming out called Delicate, starring Kim Kardashian.
And Lady Gaga, right? Is Gaga back in this?
I don't think she's back. I think unless you're like Emma Roberts or a couple others that are in like all of them, I think you can kind of just be in like one. But yes, I get no.
Is this? I don't know. Why are we still doing these?
I don't know. There were some good. The first couple were pretty damn good.
First 2, I would say, other than the musical episode where they did the name game, Asylum was awesome. First season fucking ruled.
Did you see the first season? Murder House was amazing.
So good. Yeah.
The Asylum, the report this week was that Margot Robbie auditioned for it, and I guess like didn't get it.
Really?
Yeah. I think she probably would have been pretty good. Probably should have gone with that. All right. In honor of the man himself, Ryan, passing away at the age of 99, let's get to. That's right. It's time for Should I Have Bought This? It is brought to you by 47 Brand. Go to 47brand.com, enter the promo code #dork at checkout for 25% off your entire order, which somebody DM'd me on Instagram at Dork Podcast. Bought himself 5 nice minor league hats. We used the promo code, saved himself a goddamn fortune. Saved himself a fortune with the promo code.
And free shippy.
And free shippy. Yeah. He wasn't paying for shipping. Real quick in the chat, Thomas wants to know, explain my Harlem jersey, please. Well, it's obviously a Harlem Globetrotters jersey because like 10 years ago, I played against the Harlem Globetrotters, believe it or not. How do you like that?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was at the Sports Hub.
Yeah.
And they had one night they had Jones play and one night they had me play. you actually played. You have to play with the fucking Generals.
With the Washington Generals, yeah.
You don't stand a fucking chance of winning.
With this guy, George Washington. What about my shirt?
Your shirt is George Washington on a tank, and it says, "What the fuck?"
What the fuck
is a kilometer?
George Washington riding a tank that says, "What the fuck is a kilometer?"
Not on my watch.
Not here, pal.
Nope, we're not learning the metric
Not here.
system. I don't care if everybody else is into it.
And I don't care if it makes way more sense than the imperial system.
Way more sense. So how many inches are in a foot again? Like, don't fucking worry about it.
Fuck you. That's how many.
I'm running a tank. Yeah, but playing against Harlem Globetrotters, and I remember being I was like pissed because it was at the Garden, so that was super cool. And like doing the warm ups and like you do full layup lines and everything with the Generals, and we're running up and down. And these guys are all like former college players, probably.
Yeah.
And stupid me, I'm like, hey, I'll just get to like fit in and like run up and down a little bit. Fuck that. They put you out there and they're like, they stop the game and they're like, where do you want to shoot it from? And I'm like, I don't know what gets me the most points. So I'm like, I jacked one from like way beyond the 3-point line and missed. And they're like, why don't you come in? I'm like, let's just play. Let's just play.
Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see? Yes.
So then they're like, can you shoot a free throw? And I'm like, oh. So I shoot a free throw, I miss, and they're like, everyone's laughing at me. I'm like, everybody misses fucking free throws. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then so he's like, why don't you come a little closer? So I'm like in the paint, fucking make a shot. I'm like, they're like, yay. I'm like, I can do it. And then I'm trying to like play defense, right? So I run up. They take this guy, he's named like Big Sexy or something. They're like, guard him. I'm like, I don't think that's a good matchup for us. They're like, no, guard him. And so he just backs me down like underneath the basket, pulls my shorts down, and then
I was gonna say pants do. Stops what he's doing, pulls your shorts down. You're wearing a jock strap.
He actually, I forget. When I was shooting my free throw, I think he did pull my pants down. And thankfully, this was before my
do that.
This is before my vasectomy, so my balls were fine.
My vast step friends fully intact.
That was actually glory days of my balls, and so the whole
hang on them.
Obviously, I wasn't wearing underoos because I wasn't ready for that. Oh. So yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed in the Garden anymore. There's a whole.
I have a buddy who wears a jock strap when he does anything athletic, just a jock strap like Baker Mayfield. And he refers to it as the Duke.
The Duke.
So he asks all the time if we're doing anything, if he has to bring the Duke with him.
Like, we're just playing cornhole. I don't think you need the Duke.
He's like, I might. You never know.
Keep it in there. But anyway, yeah, we lost to the Trotters.
You don't say.
I got TV mid sip. It's still one of the greatest jokes of all time is when Krusty the Clown bet against the Globetrotters and he was watching the game and he's like, he's spinning the ball on his finger.
Just take it.
It's the best. He's like, they were due. It's like, Krusty, you bet against the Globetrotters. Anyway, all right. We said, should I have bought this time? And actually, this one comes with a quick email too. Let me read the email first before I post the picture. This one comes in from Jasper. He says, hey, Davey and Rich, I've been listening for about 5 years. Definitely in the top 50 for most loyal listeners since then.
Bold claim.
Says, I'm 36, New Hampshire born, got a 6-month-old. Wife is as Irish as the day is long, have always related to both of you. He says, how diners, drive-ins, and dives made the top 50, but not The Walking Dead is a travesty.
Nothing to do with us.
Nope. I voted for The Walking Dead, did not vote for DD&D.
Yep.
Also, he says, I disagree on Game of Thrones with most people. He goes, it's like being mad at the Patriots for losing 3 Super Bowls. He goes, that last season was still good. We all just had crazy expectations, and it was way better than the last seasons of The Office and The Wire, which are great shows, but Game of Thrones is basically a long series of incredible movies. Come on, guys. And then finally his submission, and I kind of get what he's saying that on Game of Thrones. You and I both ranked Game of Thrones really high. Also, he goes, Also, I bought this fucking thing for blank dollars. We kind of used it once. Its run as a kiddie pool is probably done. Any additional advice for a 6-month-old would be very appreciated. So, Davey, for those that aren't watching live on YouTube, describe what we got here.
It looks like a shitty kiddie pool, but like, what am I looking at? Because it's like, it's propped up on one side. Like, what the fuck is this thing?
Is there somebody underneath
Is it a kiddie pool? Like, is that just what it is?
Yeah, that's what he says.
But why is it like up on one side?
I don't know. They're airing it out.
I don't know.
Because I bought this fucking thing. How much do you think you spent on this fucking thing?
See, there's the thing. It depends on when you bought it. Like, if you bought it in the summer, it's got to be like $60. But like now, it's probably like, it's got to be over 25. So it's got to be what, $45? I'm guessing
$40.
No,
he spent $40 on this kiddie pool. What do you say to this one?
No, get the fuck out of here with this.
Get the fuck out of here.
Here's the thing. And he wants advice for like a 6-month-old, right? Fucking blow bubbles in their face on a summer day. They don't give a fuck. They think that's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, dude, they love
spray them with a hose. They don't give a shit. Have them run
down.
through a sprinkler. You don't need to buy a shitty kiddie pool.
You know what? And I bought a shitty kiddie pool at one point.
What is it? What did it do? It's going to kill your grass.
It's shitty.
It's going to pop.
It's shit. And then it gets dirt. Like, you have clean water for the day, you know, and then it's like, it's not.
The second you get out and get back in, there's fucking grass in it. Like, it sucks.
One thing I would recommend, though, which isn't bad, you still got to kind of like keep it clean a little bit, but you can get like these little like stationary like frog ponds.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for like a 6-month-old, because they're starting to probably like pull themselves up and like stand up and stuff. So you can just set them up outside and they just fucking splash the water like lunatics.
I would say, out of all the things I've ever bought my kids, the thing I got the most miles out of is like a water table.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Frog pond,
water
table. Yeah. Like, so you can put it on. You can put it outside. If you have a deck, you can just put it on the deck. It doesn't take up a ton of space. And grab
a little bit of water.
Yeah,
they can dump the water into like the thing, and they fucking love it.
It's great.
And again, I would invest more in bubbles.
Bubbles is at where it's at.
Bubbles are big. Yep.
People. Andrew in the chat, you should buy a bunch of Toy Story toys. He, of course, that is the man who did buy a bunch of Toy Story toys.
You got any for sale?
Get the fuck out of here.
Look, we've all been there. And as somebody who, I don't know if I told you this, I've had to move 4 rooms into 2 rooms because of the basement issues that I'm having here. Get too much shit. And now I'm just as guilty. I have so much shit. Look at the shit behind me. It's just fucking shit.
Yeah, but at least that's organized. There was an order here.
What do you think of that, by the way? I did the old switcheroo. I had, because you can't see behind me, I have like a shelf. Yep. And I used to have the comic books on the top shelf, Funko Pops on the bottom shelf, and I gave them the old switcheroo.
I like it. It looks like you read now.
I am. I'm a learned man.
Yeah.
I'm a learned man.
So there was a colleague of mine who came into my office because it's attached to the dorm, and she was giving me shit because she's like, you have this huge bookshelf with no fucking books on it. I'm like, she's like, all these, she's like, it's 6 shelves and 2 of them are books.
Like, yeah.
And I'm like, fuck you. Like, one of the hats, I got records, I got, you know.
You're like, all the books are, they're all in my Kindle.
No, they're all in my classroom.
Yeah,
like, keeping all the books in the classroom. Yeah.
That's probably for the best. So there you go. If you want to be a part of Should I Have Bought This, it's very easy. You just got to email us, dorkpodcast@gmail.com, a picture, brief description of what you bought, and a $25 minimum, because we've always said here, look, you're a grown-up. If it's under $25, get it.
Sure.
Get it for yourself. Why not? All right, let's get to this part of the program.
It's time for Davey's video game minute, even if it takes more than a minute.
All right, sir, what do you have?
Well, what I have, Richard, is, have you heard of this game Starfield?
No.
So Bethesda, who makes Fallout and who makes, all of the Elder Scrolls games, Skyrim of the like, So they have a game coming out. It's called Starfield. It's a Xbox or a PC Xbox exclusive called Starfield, and it is the guy who is the executive at Bethesda said the game doesn't start until you beat the 130-hour story mode. Do you?
No.
Nearing. Yeah, you're nearing 40.
I'm old.
Do you have 130 hours to play a video game right now?
Sadly, no, I don't. I don't think I have 30 hours to play a video game right now. It pains me to say it, but I got to a point in Ragnarok where I just played this one part a million times and I couldn't beat it, and I just like, enough. I go, I'm not having fun anymore. I got to do something else more worthwhile.
What part?
It's the fucking. I don't even think it's supposed to be that hard. I was pretty far, and I was fighting. Is it like these two sisters, maybe? And what were their names? And it's like a weird. You're in like a big, like giant, just like rectangle. It feels like, and they come at you, and you like throw shit.
I was like Valkyrie. No, I can't remember.
Maybe no.
Game feels like it was so long ago. It wasn't though.
I'll look up where I'll look up where it was. I feel like I was right at the end, and I just could not beat this part. I got so mad. No, but my point is, like, I haven't even played the PS5 in a while. I'll probably wait until Spider-Man. When's Spider-Man out? That's
geez, that's coming out fall, right?
Yeah, this calendar year anyway. That'll be the next thing I sink a bunch of hours into.
I can't wait for that. I'm so excited. But the more I hear about it, the more like the better. Like I think it's going to be too.
Although I don't know, like. Remember some people complained that they're like, oh, Last of Us 2 is like too long. I'm like, I'm kind of good with it.
Long enough.
Like, if the game's great, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's certain games like Ragnarok was one of them. Last of Us was 2, and Last of Us Part 2 were ones that were like you didn't want to do the story right away because you didn't want it to end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't want to finish those games.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of bummed out when I did. But anyway, so that's Starfield. If you have 130 hours, people are having very strong reactions to Call of Duty adding Nicki Minaj to their roster.
Okay, I like Nicki Minaj quite a bit.
And they've kind of people are. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to be crass. I don't want to work blue, but you can go on Twitter and see everybody's, whether or not she has that gat going on.
Okay,
which I find that to be insulting and whatever. So Fortnite, I guess, is adding like that guy who's like does that like I don't like he pulls his palms up. He's like
who's that?
They're adding him to Fortnite. He's like a TikToker who's like he's a kid from I forget where he's from, but I forget his name. Stupid
TikTok.
But the big thing for us, I think, for the Davies Video Game Minute is you finally saw the trailer and the expanded trailer for Tekken 8. How do you feel about this? And how do you feel about you and I have been playing Tekken since Tekken 2.
Yep.
And Tekken Tag on PlayStation 2. And it's been over 20 years. How do you feel about me being the best Tekken player you know?
I feel bad about that.
You feel bad about that?
I don't think that's the case.
You don't think that's the case?
No. I know that that's not the case, considering I count as somebody that I know. I've met myself.
You count as somebody that you know.
I also know the general, and you know the general as well.
What is the general's real name?
Charles Lee.
What's his real name?
Oh, I don't know. Well, it's Charles Lee.
I don't think his first name was actually Charles, but that's
he went by Charles.
He went by Charles.
Actually, he went by the general. He was the greatest.
Called him the general.
He's one of the greatest video game players I've ever seen in my life.
Right. But I think this is something that needs to be settled because they now have this like arcade mode, like arcade quest or whatever they call it.
Oh yeah,
so you can actually
we could stream this. We could play. Here's I like to always start out with a couple of excuses before any kind of challenge. I always people never listens to them, but I just want to at least put them out there.
Sure.
My two best Tekken characters aren't in this game. Now I will rise above it. Yes. And I will find two others that I will master. But
I know one. Who else is not in this?
There's no Lei.
There's no Lei in this?
I don't even think Lei was in 7. I don't think Lei's in 8.
They said there were like 30-something playable characters, and they've brought back some pretty shitty ones.
32 characters. Now, they don't have Gon. And so Gon, if you remember, was the little orange dinosaur in Tekken 3.
Tag, right?
3.
It was in Tekken 3.
Oh, he was in Tekken 3. And he is like a cartoon character or something, so they don't have the rights to him. So they like got him for that one game, but they don't like own the rights to him. And then I think they got rid of. I'm pretty sure they got rid of Lei.
They did get rid of Lei for Tekken 7 and maybe 6, but like there is
here's Tekken 8. I got it. Returning characters. Ahsoka, Brian Fury, Claudio, Huang, Jack 7, although I think it's gonna be Jack 8. Jin or Devil Jin, Jun, Kazuya, King 2, Kuma, Lars, Leo, Leroy, Shayu, Martial Law. I see anybody can play Law. Nina Williams, Paul Phoenix, Raven, Sergey, Shaheen, Steve Fox, and Yoshimitsu.
So I'm now at a disadvantage too. So now I have an excuse.
Well, wait a minute. I thought I saw Eddie in the trailer. Maybe not.
No, that was Leroy.
Oh, I didn't see Eddie then. So is Eddie not in the game?
He's in 7.
Oh boy.
Fucking dominate with him. So we're both at a disadvantage now.
We're just gonna be terrible. We're just like pick a guy we don't know what the hell we're doing with it, just like smashing the bat like the button.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I mean, I'm a good enough Hwarang that I could get away with it.
Yeah. I'll probably go with Nina, and I mean Law's fairly easy to use, but I'll try somebody else. You know who I wasn't bad with it, and he doesn't look like he's in the game either, was fucking Lee. Lee was good. Remember he wore like he had like the quick kicks, and he wore suits. Mm-hmm. Son of a bitch. All right. Well, anyway,
what are we doing here?
I'll get it. I'll get the game, but that wasn't 32 characters. I don't think so.
I'm looking at them all. So I'm looking at them all right now. So and they've ranked them even though the game hasn't come out.
How the fuck?
I don't know. Like maybe based on 7, like the returning characters based on 7. But the other thing too that I really like about this is that it's these characters are from the jump. Like Street Fighter's doing this thing where they're kind of rolling them out one at a time, which kind of keeps you invested. But I mean, having these characters were like, you know, who's a sneaky good character in 7 is Dragunov.
Oh yeah,
he's good. Schmidt. I do like Steve Fox too. I do like using Steve Fox. But how do you have like Kuma but no Lei?
Right.
How do you have Raven but not Eddie Gordo?
I liked Bruce Irvin too. He was pretty good.
He's in 7.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's in 8 though.
I know. But of course, Nina is good. So, like, I mean, we're both at a disadvantage now. So I say once the game drops, you got a month.
All right. So January 26th it comes out. So by the end of February, we will set.
So I'd say March 1st. We'll call it. Just make it easy. March 1st.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We'll get like a month and a couple days, and we'll just like rip it.
And then it's on.
Yep.
I like that. Very good.
Like that. So there's the Davies Video Game Minute. So that's all to say that we're going to play Tekken together. And we're going to bring the band back together too.
Oh yeah, Shark's
because our buddy Shark is he's starting to talk to his kid about it, and he's talking himself up a little too much for my liking. Be like, all right, you were pretty good. Same thing with WrestleMania 2000. Like you were better than us, and then we got good.
He was pretty good at WrestleMania 2000.
He really was.
He was fucking pretty good at it. He had that one finishing move where he just kicked the guy 1,000 times. Remember that? He just
what killed me is like you're in like a seated position.
Yeah.
Like arms down, head down, and the guy's he's fucking kicking the shit out of you.
He should have been thrown out of the wrestling. Like he shouldn't have been allowed to wrestle anymore.
He's working a little stiff, is what you're saying.
He was. Yeah. I caught a couple potatoes. I didn't like it. Yeah, that's
What's
great.
Catching potatoes? I've never heard that.
I think like you just get fucking clocked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the story? I forget who it was. Steve Austin was talking about wrestling the Big Boss Man. And the Big Boss Man was like giving it to him.
Yeah.
Like being mean to him.
Yeah.
And so he sets him up for a clothesline, but instead of actually clotheslining him, he did like the right angle.
Oh.
Like he put his arm in and he hit him right in the nose with his forearm. And he was like, after that, it went fine. But he's like, I had to let him know, like, fucking cut the shit.
Yeah, dude. Back then, like those guys would just fucking beat.
Like instead of your arm straight out, he put his arm like at a right angle, like an arm, it just boom hit him right in the nose with his forearm.
Terrible.
Oh, can you imagine that?
Speaking of wrestling, you see our guy or my guy, Adam Cole today?
I don't know who that is.
That's my guy. Well, so he was on the show, and he was a great. He could fill it anytime. I told him, but
never heard of him. Never heard of him.
They wrestled. AEW was in Wembley Stadium today. And it was like 90,000 people were there.
So that is, you said it on Twitter, is that the biggest wrestling event ever?
Now they're selling it that way. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like, you know how wrestling can be. They can tweak some of the numbers, but that's what they're legit saying. It's like the biggest wrestling show of all time.
We goosed him.
Yeah, but goosed it a little bit. I mean, that's not their actual muscles. What are you doing? What are you doing? All right, Brad, question for you.
Y'all ready for Bisque?
Topic du jour time. Well, I'm glad you asked. It's the topic of the day. And today is the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, the new Star Wars Disney Plus series. And it's going to be 8 episodes in total. This past week, they released the first 2. The first one runs about 54 minutes. The second one, 44 minutes. We'll begin spoiler-free, as we do with all of our TV and movie reviews. Ryan, do you like it?
Yes.
Yes.
I do. For myriad reasons, but yes, I do. I do like this show
quite a bit. I love it. I love it early. It's early. Things can change, but I think they've given us enough without just going like, here's everything we have. Right? Like it sort of sets up where they're going, sets up the story. It introduces you to some characters, especially some live action characters. It also reintroduces you to some other characters, so to get the scene of where you're at in the Star Wars timeline. And it's so fucking cool to see some of these characters that we saw as cartoons now full on live action. And the casting choices so far have been all perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Here's my question. Now, this has been a little bit of a hot debate over the last week, especially with like TV critics. Do you have to have seen Clone Wars and or Rebels to fully appreciate this show?
And again, not all of it. Just the stuff pertaining to Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine. I don't think you need all of it, but you definitely need a refresher. So watching it with somebody who had never seen a second of Rebels, my wife, I felt like I had to explain a lot to her.
It's funny you say that.
She was into it. She was super into it. She was just like, who is that? I'm like, all right. So Ezra was a Jedi Padawan trained under. So I had to like go through the whole thing and how Sabine technically was a Padawan too, but not really. She's a Mandalorian. I had to go through like this whole thing. I was like, you remember the girl with the red hair, like cut like that? Like she worked with her. I'm sorry, the Ghost Squad. Like I'm having to who Fulcrum is. Like I'm trying to explain all this stuff, and she's just kind of like glazing over. I'm like, you'll figure it out.
Well, so it's funny that you said it because I was also I watched the first episode with my dad, of all people, the guy who told me to watch Star Wars back when I was 10 years old. And so I was watching Ahsoka with him. I'm like, you got to watch the show. And he obviously has never seen the cartoons. And as I'm watching it with him, he recognized Ahsoka from Mandalorian and Boba Fett, because he watches both of those shows and he likes those shows. Well, he really likes Mandalorian, but he's like, he wasn't really asking questions, but I was the same way as you, where I was like, it's like watching the second movie or the sequel with somebody that hasn't watched the original. And so I kept adding this extra information about being like, well, those two characters actually really know each other. And like, this is going to come back. And like this kid, they used to work together. And like, oh, they haven't seen each other in a long time. And he's just like, okay. Cause so as much as I agree with those that are like, it really helps to have seen Rebels or Clone Wars to see where these characters are from. I also think at like the core of Star Wars, it's about like jumping into the middle of a story and like kind of playing that out. Like episode 4 is how it debuted in the late 70s. And you're like, I don't know who Obi-Wan is. Like we'll figure it out together. Like, I don't know who this person is. Like, so I think for us that watch the show, like you get an added benefit, but by no means do I think you have to have seen it. And like, let's see how they do it. Like, let's see how the next 6 episodes go. But I think I'm interested in some of the people listening to this podcast that didn't watch a second of Rebels or Clone Wars. Do you still enjoy it? Do you still like it? Or do you have a lot of questions, or are you just like, we'll figure it out as it goes?
And I think one of the things that is helpful to say to people too is like all roads lead to Anakin Skywalker. Like anytime, like, all right, how does this person connect to Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader? Like he is the center of the Star Wars universe. Forgive the pun, but like anything has to do with him.
And so I also think it's cool for those people that haven't watched anything yet, because after watching the original trilogy, however many years passed, and then they made the prequels. And so you can like, and so if you're a kid starting to watch them now, you watch the originals first. That's what you should do. And then you're like, oh, I get further backstory on this. So now in those movies are way more miss, obviously, than hit. But now you could watch Ahsoka and you could watch Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and then you're like, you know what? I want a little bit more. Go watch Clone Wars and Rebels, and then you can kind of fill it in after the fact and know that they're so much better, and like you're going to get really good stories in there.
Right. And I think there has to be like a definitive, like suggested viewing beforehand. You know, like you should know.
Yeah.
Like, again, I mean, in order to understand, I'm trying to say like The Hobbit, you should probably have a fundamental understanding of like Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't think that's a good enough analogy, but like there needs to be some sort of like context.
The problem I had when we did our episode 2 weeks ago about Rebels, and that was just Rebels, and we were talking about here are the key episodes. Like, I left out a bunch of ones that, like, it all depends on how much time you have, because I like almost that entire series. But I was like, all right, just for the Ahsoka show, here are the ones that I think. But then you're like, oh, you also should watch the 3 Tales of the Jedi episodes. You should really watch with her. Yeah, her ones. You should really watch a lot of Clone Wars, because that's where you get the Ahsoka Anakin relationship. And she's in Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Like, you should watch those episodes too.
Yeah. So, and it was odd for me to say to Rye that like she's just as important as like any other Jedi other than Luke and Anakin. Like, she's just as important in my mind. She's just as important as Obi-Wan, because she's that tether between like Luke and Anakin. And we know now that they've interacted, they know each other. So like she's filled in some gaps for him.
I need and I wonder if they'll address it in the show. Like, where was she during episode 4, 5, and 6?
I think they have to.
I think they will. Like, I trust Filoni, because that's a question that he's literally the #1 Star Wars super fan in the world, and he is now in charge of Star Wars. So that's clearly a question that he would be asking. And that
was something that like what I found great about this show is that like him being like, I can tell him being like, well, I don't really think I need to flesh this out with like whatever context, because like if you're watching this show and you know I'm directing it, you should fucking know this stuff. Like, I feel like you should have done your homework. Do you even know who I am?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, I think we're in pretty good hands as far as that is concerned, and it's a character that he cares. So he's gonna be more hands-on with this show than any of the other shows. Because like really Favreau kind of runs Mandalorian. John Favreau, like that's his show. Like other directors, but I think isn't he written like every episode? Or not, maybe not every episode. Yeah,
no, but he's produced it. He's written a lot of them, and just like Filoni, I think wrote this whole series, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I like that. It also, like most Star Wars stuff, it looks and sounds awesome. Like that was one of the takeaways watching Andor. You know, get yourself a big old screen TV if you can get yourself surround sound or whatever. Like it's like you're watching an hour-long movie every week. Like, it's sick.
And again, there's so much, like, I know you've said this before, but there's so much stuff between episodes 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Of the movies.
There was in 3 and 4.
Shit.
And they've done a lot, right? Like 3 and 4, and that's where you get Rebels. That's where you get
Andor,
Clone Wars, Andor.
Rogue One.
Yeah. And so
Solo to a lesser degree. Sure. Yeah.
And now, between 6 and 7, all of a sudden that's sort of been a bit untapped until Mandalorian showed up. So this is sort of like, all right, Mando, Boba Fett, this, oh boy. And so it's funny. So like watching this series, any character who pops up in Force Awakens, for example, is like alive and in play and could be a part of this.
Like you could see a young Kylo Ren in this show.
You could?
Oh, sorry. You could see a young Ben Solo.
You could see Ben Solo. You could see Han Solo. You could see Chewie. You could see Luke. You could see Leia. You could see Snoke. You could see whoever you want.
Rey. You can hit Tatooine and see what Rey's doing.
Finn.
So there's 2 that I need to see.
All right.
1.
Yes.
Luke Skywalker needs to show up at some point in the show.
Okay.
As probably the most powerful Jedi in the universe currently. according to this show. It's probably Luke. You need to see him. You need to talk to him at some point. 2, I would love to see Cal Kestis in the show. Played by the same actor, played by Cameron Monaghan, like the same actor. He's the same. He's the right age. It's the right time.
I bet we do.
Have to bring him in.
I bet we do.
Yeah.
Let's go. Do you want to do scores for the first 2 episodes or save it to the end of the season? I mean, it's probably
so right now. I would say right now, if this was it, I'd give it a 5.
Yeah, like I'm with you. I'd say it's like a rock hard 5. I'm not gonna like. I love the characters. I could easily just be like everything that anytime they're on the screen, it's a 6. But I just think it's a really good starting point, and as long as it maintains this, and I also have a feeling based on the villain who's coming, it's gonna get even better. So like, I think this has a chance to end as a 6. But right now, I'll go 5.
And what I would love for them to do with the villain is have that person have a reason for doing what they're doing. Yeah, we talked about a little bit about the preview.
You did it last week or 2 weeks ago.
I want him to be like, I did that because I'm trying to save this whole fucking thing.
Yeah. Dave in the chat wants to know, could Darth Maul fit into this? They teased him in the Solo movie. So based on the time that we're in right now, Maul is technically dead.
He's dead. Yeah.
So he died. Spoiler, I guess, but he died in Rebels. But we also thought he died in Phantom Menace in episode 1. So I suppose
he was cut in half and thrown down a fucking huge well. We all thought he was dead. This cat's got 9 lives.
I was gonna say, like in comic books, nobody really dies. Star Wars, it seems like they die, but then they can become like Force ghosts. So I wouldn't entirely rule it out. Now, here's one reason why I say that.
It's unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out.
It's unlikely, but we know Filoni likes him. We know Filoni would try to maybe get him back now that all these other characters are live action again. Because it would be amazing to get him live action. Now, the guy who voiced him in Clone Wars and Rebels.
You read my mind. Go.
His name was in the credits under additional voices. So, what does it mean?
And it's alleged that he plays Merrick, who is the Inquisitor because Inquisitors don't exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
The one who looked like an Inquisitor, right? Who's using a double-sided lightsaber.
Come on.
I'm not entirely certain that that's not him.
So, Dave, I love
the actor. You have the actor who voiced him playing him.
So, circling back.
Also, by the way, who also played Starkiller in Force Unleashed. He was Darth Vader's secret apprentice. So it could be him too.
I mean, come on. So anyway, great question. I mean, like all I'm gonna say is that we saw him die, but we've seen him die twice. So maybe he's back, or maybe it's just like a tip of the cap. I don't know what it is, but I like it. Let's dive into this for those that somehow have not yet had a chance to see the first 2 episodes.
One more thing.
Okay.
So Merrick, who's like the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
If you look at his helmet, it's a little bigger on the top. It like
horns.
Could be to fit the horns. I'm just saying.
You think he has horns?
If it's a Maul.
Oh God, do I have to pull up this picture now? This fucker. Merrick. Images.
It does bevel out.
Wait, where is it? There we go. Does that look like an asshole's got horns in there?
But it's like extended in the back. Like it looks like he could have some horns there.
Huh. Let me try to get a good picture. I can pull it up. I'll pull it up in the old chat here, or in the old YouTube too, so everybody can see what we're talking about. Where is he? Give me a good pick.
Marrok. Merrick.
Yeah, I got this might do the trick. It doesn't seem like it's all that HD though. Let's see. Yeah, because there's some questions here with this gentleman.
We don't even know if it's a gentleman. We're just speculating.
Oh, good point. This person. But anytime you go double-ended like that,
you're like,
right?
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Let me remove that. Let me pop this up. How would we do that? Stop screen. No. Video file. Nope. I don't want to do that. Oh, share screen. Here we go. This is going to be Underwhelming for those that are not in the YouTube chat, but let's pull it up anyway. Let's see. There he is.
There you go. See how that it goes out?
It kind of does look. Wait, what's happening now?
I see it.
There you go. If you take that helmet off, there could be horns.
Yes,
there could be horns. Thomas says in the chat, one theory is that Merrick is Ezra.
I have heard that theory as well.
Possible. We're definitely getting Ezra. We actually got him. You know what? Let's like I said.
You did no, yeah, you saw Ezra.
We saw him, but let's get into spoilers then.
Yeah.
Spoilers! Here come the spoilers!
Yeah, you do see a hologram of Ezra, but that's a good red herring, right? Like you get the little like, oh, there he is. That's what he's gonna look like when we see him, and then boom, he was actually Merrick, this son of a bitch. I think the best way to do this, because it's only 2 episodes, is maybe just rip through the characters real quick.
Yes.
And so Ahsoka, one of the all-time great characters. We've already seen her portrayed by Rosario Dawson a couple of times, but this version, like, wiser, because like we kind of grew up with her, or like we watched her grow up, I should say, if you watch the animated series. But she's definitely like a wiser, like pretty calm, but can fucking throw down, and you see it with the double saber. She's as fun to watch fight as any of the Jedi.
I love a good, not a double like 2-ended lights, but 2 lightsabers.
Sick.
I think is it. The word I would use at this is someone who's older, this is 5 6 years after Jedi, right?
This is like 5 6. Yes.
So stoic is the word I would use. Someone who's like very just like introspective, and but I hope at some point, because I've read everything there is to read about, not everything, but like I've read a ton of stuff, theories, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I hope that cracks. I hope we get like, because there's because she's not a Jedi, right? But she's doing things that she thinks that Jedi do.
Yeah.
In being very stoic and being very placid and being very like calm about everything. And I hope she just goes fucking berserk at some point.
Yeah, because I think she's got it in her, and I think like why her character is so fascinating is because like she doesn't buy into that shit, but she's also not going to just jump ship either. So there's a lot of Jedi who all of a sudden they don't like the way things are going Jedi wise, so then they become Sith, right? Like that's a story as old as time. I don't know how many Jedi though in the history of Jedi have decided to be neither. Like, aren't they? They're either stay being Jedi or they abort and they join the dark side.
Well, this is one of the cool things that this is doing, by the way. And by the way, as an aside, I was right. Secondly, one of the things that you get in this show that you've never gotten before in movies or TV shows, you've gotten it in games a couple times. Non-Jedi Force users.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, and I think you're going to see more of those. One of them being, I'm jumping ahead, but like Morgan Elsbeth, who's a Night Sister, who are witches, but they're Force users, but they aren't Jedi.
Yeah, they're super badass. And so you called that.
That's what I'm saying. I was right.
You were right about that. So that's what you're talking about.
Let me tell you what. Did I explain my reasoning?
Yeah, you did.
I don't. And again, you got to be careful when Dave Filoni. I feel like everything's so intentional that when you have a normal name like Ezra or Morgan, like there's something to that. Like, I'm happy. And like I picked up on that. Like, who would name a Star Wars character Morgan?
Yeah, you nailed it. Now, yeah. So, and like right away, she kind of revealed that she's a Night Sister. And some of the coolest shit in Clone Wars was there's like a 2 or 3 arc, or episode arc where they're in Dathomir and the Night Sisters, and it's fucking badass. So we might get
Jedi Survivor. There's a Marin is another one.
Oh yeah,
and so Palpatine wiped them out, and so there's less of them than there are Jedi.
Right. Probably they'd be a pretty big threat, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, non-Jedi Force users are pretty fucking cool, and I think you're going to see more of them in the show.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. So speaking of Morgan Elsbeth, so the 2 that help break her out, you get Baylan Skoll, and is it Shin Hati?
Shin Hati.
Shinhati.
Mm-hmm.
So Balin Skoll's another example of these guys that was a Jedi and then turned to the dark side. But I always love when characters that themselves are portrayed as badass when they are kind of intimidated by other characters because it really puts them over. But when she's like, you're kind of worried that like Ahsoka's in on this, he's like, yeah, I am. Like, he's as cool as he looks, and I'm sure he's tough as shit, but he's like, yeah, we don't want to be messing around with like Ahsoka Tano. That's not good
and
news
again,
for us.
all roads lead back to Anakin because she was trained by Anakin Skywalker. Like, he knows Anakin. So according to like Ray Stevenson, may he rest, him and Skoll and Anakin are the same age.
Okay.
At this point. So like, he knows Anakin Skywalker.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
And he knows who the fuck Anakin Skywalker is. And he's like, if anyone is trained by him, I don't want to fucking tangle with them.
He might have killed younglings with him for all we know.
Yeah, he could have been in on that.
He could have been. Well, he actually, that was probably a pretty good time during Order 66 to figure out what side you're on. You either going to run and hide or you're going to fucking start chopping them up.
But what I love is like him and Shin and Balin are both like, their lightsabers are orange. They're not red. They're not Sith. They're not Jedi. So they're like in this between. There could be dark Jedi. I've read enough of the books to know like dark Jedi exist.
Yeah. Okay.
Where they're not quite Sith.
All right.
And the fact that Shin has a Padawan braid, Sith don't have that.
No. True.
So we're in a bit of a gray area here.
I like it.
Yeah.
We get our debut of Hera Syndulla, live action, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Friend of the pod.
I mean, great casting, great character in Rebels. She's only in Rebels. We talked 2 weeks ago about how she is referenced in Rogue One, like off camera. So she fought and all that shit. So like, unlike Ahsoka and Sabine, where we're kind of like questioning where were they between Rebels and now, like they've at least alluded to in other movies and stuff. Like Hera was a big part of that. Like she probably knows Luke and Leia and Han. Like I would feel pretty confident that she could walk into a room with them and shoot the shit.
She's a general. So like, I think Rebel general. So she would have to know
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was pretty good. Now, Sabine is one of my favorite characters from the show. I think you start to get a glimpse of it at the very end. Because like with this at first, you're wondering like what's kind of her deal. I think
she had all summer to figure it out.
She did have all summer to figure it out.
Yeah.
I hope they lean in a little bit more to the Mandalorian stuff.
Well, I liked when they had her laying out her armor and bringing it with her.
Oh, when she took the helmet out, I was like, "Ew, boy, like it's game on." Yep, I was in on that. So I don't really remember this so much. Like, obviously, she had a relationship with Ahsoka. There is the very end of Rebels, where Sabine's actually the one kind of narrating what happened with all the characters, and she sort of alludes to like her and Ahsoka decide to go find Ezra. But I don't remember Sabine being trained by Ahsoka, or I don't remember her being like anything to do with being a Jedi other than having Ezra's lightsaber and at one point having the dark saber. But other than that, like now she's like in this weird spot where she's gonna train to be a Jedi, I guess.
Well, it's interesting too because like someone alludes, I think it's Hu Yang says something to her about like she was talking about a Shinhati, and he's like, you do not have the Force capabilities she does.
Right.
So it's weird to me that like maybe Ahsoka's just training her as a non-Force Jedi. Like and it's weird. It would be odd for Mandalorians to be Force sensitive, right? Typically they aren't.
Yeah, I don't think so. Right. It is. And yet the dark saber was the weapon that would lead them.
Right.
So it is interesting that they would have that. But yeah, I didn't, and we'll see where that whole thing goes. But it is funny. You're right. The Hu Yang kind of points out, he's like, in fact, out of all the Jedi or all the Padawans, you're the worst one.
You're the worst. Like, there's no reason for you to do this. Like, and again, I mean, he's been hundreds of years. Like, he's been the guy who's like trained them and how to make lightsabers, and he knows.
And so he was in Clone Wars, and David Tennant, the great actor, voiced him in this and in that. They do a ton of fucking, like, they get people to be a part of it, like, years later. Like, the actress who played Mon Mothma, for God's sakes, was in, like, all these things, and she's in the live action now.
But you like, I mean, for me, I would like to think that if I was an actor that was cast like early on in my career as like a voice actor in Star Wars or whatever, and they're like, "Do you want to do it again?" The answer is always yes.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell
Always
yeah.
yes.
Speaking of that, Ryder, who is now like the governor of Lothal.
Lothal, yeah.
He's back. It's the same guy who did the voice. He's in this too. He wasn't in it a ton. I don't know if he's gonna be in it more or not, but I'm like, pretty good. Clancy
Brown, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So he was he's the bull prison guard in Shawshank.
Yep.
That's Clancy Brown.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so he's back. He had the voice of that. He was the one, you remember, he had the you thought he was gonna double cross the rebels, but he didn't. So I don't know if that makes it a triple cross or whatever it was, but
he's playing both sides.
Yeah, he's clearly on their sides. That's pretty good. Let's see. Chopper. I think you're gonna get more out of Chopper. Chopper's a good.
Chopper was great.
Yeah, Chopper's gonna be good. And not only do they mention Ezra, but they obviously mention Thrawn. And I think that's where this series has a real chance to be one of the greats. If they fucking pull this off right.
And you kind of saw the whales, right? You kind of saw the space whales.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. And it was, was it Balin Skoll? Was it him who like looked up and like you
with
see
the map? They were doing the thing with the map and they looked up and you could hear them. You could kind of see them, but then you just heard them. Yeah.
You could see him. Because it was like through the clouds, and it was like, and I'm like, but that's one of those things where had I not seen the show, maybe I wouldn't have seen him, or maybe I wouldn't even have really known what was going on.
Or you just would have passed off like that was weird.
But yeah, well, because it is weird.
It is weird. Space whales is weird.
Space whales is nuts. But yeah, so they're tracking him down. So do you think Ezra and Thrawn end up working together?
Kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I have to go back to because I watched that video in all the books.
Yeah.
And Thrawn was looking for, in the books, he was fighting this group of aliens, and I know someone in the chat is going to know what they're called. But I said this last time, like they basically figured out how to do hyperspace without like math. Like they basically just go wherever they want, whenever they want it. And my guess is that if the Empire or the New Republic gets their hands on that, like that's so he's trying to stop that from happening. And in order to do that, him and Ezra need to go through the world between worlds or something like that in order to figure out how to stop it.
That's definitely going to play a part.
See, what I'm thinking is that like he needs Ezra to show him how to do that in order to stop this other threat. So in order to and he's going to use the Imperial Navy, he's going to use whatever he can, like whatever Imperial trash is still left out there to take, because that's all he has.
Yeah.
So that's where I think this is going. And so I love the idea of having Thrawn have okay, we don't like this guy because he's a dickhead, but like he's trying to do something to save all of you, whether you like how he does it or not.
Yeah, right.
Because they showed on that map. So like one of the things that I think is the smartest thing of the show is they actually showed other galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get to those galaxies, and again, I what you found Balin is like worried to shit about what's out there.
Yeah, right.
And so I think they're trying to figure out how to do all of that shit. So there could be force sensitive people who aren't Jedi who are way more powerful than him. Like wherever those Jedi gods came from, they can go there.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is what Filoni does. So he's just opened up this whole thing. Like this egg is cracked open at this point. Sorry, I'm spiraling at this point.
No, I like it. No, these are all good theories. Like I'm not exactly sure where they're gonna go. I feel like there's a few different paths they could go down, because I feel like some of the books they could definitely lean into.
And fucking Filoni's read every single book, every single comic book, every single
for sure. I also wonder, so Kanan Jarrus was one of the main characters in Rebels. He was like Hera's I don't even know if they were married. Did they get married? Whatever. They're
baby daddy.
Right. He was with Hera. There's a Hera kid out there somewhere who we're going to get in this. Is it Jace, I believe it was? Or Jason or something like that.
Which is, it's funny because Jason Solo is like they changed it to Ben Solo for Kylo Ren.
Okay.
In the books, his name is Jaycen, Jason Solo.
Interesting.
Who becomes a Sith. And he has a sister as well. Who they never, I don't know if that's canon or not.
Okay. But do you think we get Kanan Jarrus? At least his voice. I know he's dead. But do we get his voice? Does he talk to somebody? I bet he does. Because he was actually the one, if you want to go back to this, when Sabine got the Darksaber, he trained her in sort of some Jedi shit and like handling a saber.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a little bit of that. I saw Lears is back in the chat. He was a big help a couple of weeks ago. He says he thinks Ezra's message to Sabine was telling her that he's maybe that she could be force sensitive, and that's why he said, I need you to see this through. Possible to get in on that, to still. And do we get Zeb at any point? We must. We got him in Mando.
You got him in, or was it? Yeah, it was Mando. So like you have to, right? He's out there.
He's got to show up.
He's doing mercenary things, right? He's doing Ghost Crew things. So
he's on the mural too. So they show that mural a couple of times. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a cool kind of connection to the.
Which is cool that they did it in the same style as Rebels too.
Yeah, and I feel like they did a pretty good job of kind of like blending it. It's not the exact one from Rebels, but it looks a lot like it, and
it's
yet
in the style of
and like giving you a little bit of the actual live action character. All right, who would you rather see Ahsoka fight? Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati 1-on-2, or just Morgan Elsbeth?
Yes.
We'll probably get
I think it's going to be a different kind. I mean, fighting Morgan is going to be a different kind of fight, you know. So but I need some sweet lightsaber action.
Yeah.
Here.
I think
but they've already set up like basically it's going to be 2-on-2s because like now that Shin has stabbed Sabine, like now there's retribution. You know, you throw at our guy, we're going to throw at your guy now.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
right through.
Got it. And there's rumors that like she knew where she hit her.
Yeah,
and she was just messing with her because she knows she's not like.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. I do think that as cool as Ahsoka is, and she's hard to top, if we get a scene where Sabine has the Mando helmet on and a lightsaber in one hand and like a blaster or something in the other, it's gonna be kind of hard to top.
By the way, if you've played the Force on the Jedi Survivor, you've played that's the coolest way to go.
Whoa, blaster and lightsaber?
You can do like double-ended lightsaber, 2 lightsabers, 1 or saber and blaster, and the most fun way to play it, saber and blaster.
That's pretty sick. I like that. All right, yeah. So episode 3 comes out. Is it a Tuesday or a Wednesday show? Did they ever decide that?
Wednesday? No, because it came out early on Tuesday, but it's still a Wednesday show. Is that right?
So yeah, that probably is right.
Yeah.
So here's an extra day. Yeah, it comes out on the 29th, whatever day that is. Line.
You want me to look?
Nope.
The 29th is a Tuesday.
Oh, there you go. It's a Tuesday show.
Yeah.
So the series finale is on October 3rd. So we will do on October 8th, even though it is Dorktober, we will do season 1 of Ahsoka. So Dave Filoni directed the first. He wrote them all, like to Davey's point. He wrote every episode. He directed the first one and the 5th one.
So that's going to be fucking awesome.
Steph Green, who just directed episode 2, directs this week's episode. And then you have Peter Ramsey. I'm not super familiar with.
Steph Green.
Oh, Rick Famuyiwa. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but I know he's done a ton of Mandalorian episodes. So he's doing the finale of this season. So there you go. Not bad.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Anything else on Ahsoka?
Famuyima. Rick Famuyima.
Yeah. I can't pronounce his name, but I know he's been on like those panel shows that like Favreau's done with like Filoni and stuff. And so he's all up in that Mandalorian world.
He also directed a movie called, I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's called Dope. It's on Netflix, I think. Shameik Moore, who's the voice of Miles Morales.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that.
It's actually really good.
Is it? All right.
Yeah.
I will check it out. Very, very good. Let's get to this.
Pick of the bomb.
Pick of the bomb. Pick of the bomb.
Pick of the pod.
All right, Ryan, would you like to kick, receive, defer, or you may also choose at this time to defend a goal?
I will receive
All right.
this week because I'm very excited. I watched on HBO BS High. Have you heard about this?
Oh, what's that?
It's an hour and a half documentary on the Bishop Sycamore thing.
Oh shit.
Dude. The coach.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this lightly and I'm not saying this to be funny. This guy is a fucking psychopath. Like, he's still running that program.
How? Who's playing Bishop Sycamore?
He claims that, like, so there's this whole thing. I won't get too much into it, but like, he had kids to like pay tuition, like taking out like PPP loans to like pay their tuition.
No,
and he's fucking scammed people out of all this money. And like, this guy honestly thinks that he's done nothing wrong.
Yeah,
he's a psycho. There's the last monologue he gives. So like the last time he's on camera, I'm not going to tell you what he says, but you're like, that is the scariest shit I've ever heard. Like, this guy's fucking scary.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweeting about it. I didn't know what it was on or when it was out, but so that was a fascinating story. I remember when that game was on TV, and then the backlash. We talked about it a ton that week.
Well, here's the thing. So what they don't tell you. So they played IMG, who's like the biggest high school team in the country for high school, for football. I mean, they played a game on Friday.
No, I know. They played like 2 days later.
They played on Friday and then played IMG on Sunday.
Yeah, it was 2 days later.
No trainers and no staff.
There's amazing. You go back to listen to the play-by-play guys, and ESPN has the game, and they were just like,
you're apologizing for it.
Not a whole lot is known about this Bishop Sycamore team, and then they're like, the meme was going around yesterday, or the video, when he's like, the one thing we do know is like the coach cares a lot about his players and like them getting a good education. You're like,
so the person who actually does a really good job is Bomani Jones, isn't it?
Okay.
So ESPN and IMG didn't want to get interviewed for the whole thing, but Bomani Jones talks about the whole thing, and it's actually really cool.
All right, I'll watch. Is it
definitely check it out?
A series, or is it a one-off?
It's a one thing.
I'll watch it. Well, so speaking of that, I talked about it on the air this week before I had watched it, but Untold, the Netflix, their version of 30 for 30. They haven't been great. And so they did Swamp Kings. It was the 4-part series on Florida from 05 to 10. Really Urban Meyer's time at Florida. Tim Tebow there for 4 years. Now, this should be like the most fascinating documentary of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't, because they skip over all like the really juicy stuff. However,
one of their players.
Yeah. Oh, they mentioned Hernandez, I think, once, but like they have they have like a whole, it's like an insane list of criminals on that team. But Tim Tebow's a big part of it. Urban Meyer's a big part of it. I can't stand Urban Meyer. And there's a lot of stuff where you're just like, really, like, there's a lot of like eye rolling. But just as a college football fan, it was cool to hear them talk about like where they were and like showing highlights of the games. And like, when Tebow was a freshman, like the recruiting process to get Tebow, who was on that team. Then the next year is when he wins the Heisman. Then the year after that, they win the title. And then he decides to come back because they want to go undefeated. So like, just for football stuff, it's a good documentary. But they're not going to talk about Cam Newton. They're not going to talk about the Pounceys. They're not talking about, all these guys getting into trouble. They gloss over like, oh yeah, then there was the year where like people were like, they're really getting on us for like getting, off-field stuff, and then they kind of like go back to the games, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like someone like stealing. It was like a laptop stealing thing that happened.
Yeah, I think Cam Newton might have been part of that.
That was Cam Newton. Yeah,
they skip over that. They mentioned Newton once, only to say that like 07 they had like a really good recruiting class. And you're like,
and then he transferred to Clemson, right?
Yeah, no, he went to Auburn. Well, he went to
Auburn.
He went to Blinn, so he went to junior college for a year, won the national title in junior college. Then he went to Auburn, won the Heisman and the national championship after Urban Meyer told him to play tight end. But that's not in the documentary. There's nothing like bad about Urban Meyer in there, and they like gloss over how he like quit on Florida, like blamed his health, and like
I remember that. Like he had migraines or something, and he just left and then went to Ohio State the next year.
Yeah,
scumbag.
He also like quit and then unquit and then did one more year, then quit again. Yeah, like dude. Anyway, so that's on Netflix. It's not bad, but if you know what it like going into it, you just want to watch like Tebow. There's some cool stuff like them they working out like crazy and like how hard it was to play there and like that kind of stuff. Not
if you want to see the real fucking warts and all about football, watch fucking BS High.
That is more interesting right now. I gotta go watch that. Bishop Sycamore thing for sure. All right, you guys can let us know what you think of the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka on Twitter and Instagram at Dork Podcast. You can email us anytime, dorkpodcast@gmail.com, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Dork Podcast. We stream normally Sunday nights, 9 p.m. live, and you can always go back and watch it at any point. Thanks for listening to this one. Oh, also, end of September, save the date, September 24th is going to be our episode on Lost.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Lost.
I got homework to do.
Rossi's gonna join us. I'm not done yet, so hold out on telling me what you guys think of the ending, but I have probably like 9 episodes left. I'm almost done. I just watched 1 episode in season 6. Fucking sucked. I like the show though. Actually, I might even love the show, but there's 1 episode I'm like, something needs to fucking happen. Anyway, we have a lot to unpack. That might be a lot to do. That might be an earlier start time and a later end time. We'll figure that out later. That's gonna be a long episode, dude. Put the coffee on. All right.
There's a lot to do there. We might have to put. I would suggest doing it in 2 parts.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Lost part 1, Lost part 2. I don't hate that.
It's a lot. There's a lot of shit. I don't recall every detail of that show, but I do know that in seasons 1 through 4, there's a lot of shit going on, and 5 and 6 are like, okay, that's its own thing.
I'm taking notes. So yeah, we'll chop it up a certain way, but plus once we start watch a couple recaps again, and I'm sure once we start talking about it, you'll remember some of the shit. But yeah. And for anybody else that wants to go on that journey, it's available on Freevee through Prime. So watching that bad boy for free. All right. Lastly, Ryan, promise me a million times over you'll never do another rule.
Yeah, I can't promise you that.